Welcome to the WPL Book Drop Podcast. I'm your host, Becky Miller, Circulation and Marketing Assistant, longtime library lover, Waterloo native, and believer in the healing power of rest and relaxation. Joining us today is Kim Chapman, Business Office Manager at the Waterloo Public Library. Kim is a hosta collector, a dog mama to a 7-year-old Sheltie, and a lettuce hater. Can you explain that lettuce hatred?
First, let me say hello, Becky. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Do you really want to know the lettuce story?
Yes, tell me, why do you hate lettuce?
I've always hated lettuce, even as a kid. I remember sitting at the kitchen table being forced to eat my lettuce, and I could not leave the table until the lettuce was gone. I choked it down. But my most favorite story about lettuce is when I met my husband. He wanted to make dinner for me, and I said, I'll eat anything you make as long as there's no lettuce on it, in it, or near it.
She's not kidding, folks. If lettuce has touched it, she will not eat it.
That is true.
There is a taste that remains.
Yes. Yes.
Well, Kim, I'm so glad that you're joining us today. So welcome, I'll say that officially. The reason that we have you joining the podcast is we want to know a little bit about what you do at the Waterloo Public Library.
Becky, I'm the office manager at the Waterloo Public Library. What do? I make sure that the staff gets paid. That's probably the most important thing I do, but I also work with our budget, make sure our bills are paid. I take care of the building. When any kind of maintenance issue comes up, it usually comes to me, and I pass that on to the appropriate people. And sometimes I feel like I'm the staff gopher.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. But that's okay. I enjoy it. I love my job. I've been here for 33 years. It's great.
Yeah, we usually call you anytime that there's a problem, like a pipe is burst or something.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about the monthly discussion group at the library that you lead. It's called the MustList. Can you tell our listeners what the MustList is for people that don't know?
Well, the MustList is a group of people we meet monthly. As you mentioned, we talk about and share what we've been reading, the titles we've been reading. We meet on the first Thursday of the month at 2 o'clock right here in the conference room where you and I are sitting. We talk about stuff we've read. We talk about shows we have been binge watched, talk about movies, and some of us have hobbies that we share with each other, stuff that has kept us busy during the last month. I cross-stitch, so I share a lot of that stuff with them.
So if you come to the MustList, do you have to read anything specific, or can you just show up?
You just show up and you tell us what you've been reading. So we don't discuss the same book.
That makes it really easy then.
Yes, it does. It does. And we have a lot of different titles that we share, and people will write them down. I take notes every month and send out that list and send it out to our staff too.
Awesome. Can you tell us some of the titles that people have recently read?
Well, one that seems to be really popular is Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. That title came to us from a NonFiction reader, which was kind of interesting, but his sister had convinced him that he needed to read that book, so he shared that with us. There's another one that this NonFiction reader also shared with us yesterday called Slime, How Algae Created Us, Plague Us, and Might Just Save Us.
Ooh.
And it is about the history of algae. Now that sounds pretty boring to me, nothing I'd want to read, but he said it was very, very fascinating. The author for that is Ruth Kassinger. 28 Summers by Ellen Hilderbrand. Yeah. That's recommended and been read by different members. And Redhead by the Side of the Road, one of my favorites by Ann Tyler, has been read by a few of the readers.
Awesome. So there's kind of a diverse titles that are in this that people are recommending, sounds like.
Oh, yes. Yes. We have some nonfiction readers. We have fiction.
So when does the MustList meet again?
We meet on the first Thursday of the month at 2 o'clock. And we usually meet for about an hour, hour and a half. And we have a lot of fun. We do a lot of laughing. And
So anyone's welcome to come to that anytime.
yes, definitely.
Okay.
Anyone.
Awesome. Before we wrap up, we each want to share a book that we recommend. I'll begin. I listened to Dave Grohl's The Storyteller. That was on Libby. Dave Grohl, for people that don't know, he is the Foo Fighters frontman, and he was originally in Nirvana. I didn't know that. I'm showing that I don't know very much about music. And I kind of just took a chance listening to it because again, I'm not like a big, rock person. But I really enjoyed the title. He talked about how he just would play, and he's self-taught, so he would just bang on those drums and just really shred it, basically, and play hard. And then he talked about meeting Kurt Cobain and then being poor out in Seattle and sleeping on his couch. And I guess Kurt had this turtle in an aquarium and Dave would be trying to sleep on the couch and this turtle would tap its head on the glass of the aquarium. So he was getting tortured by this turtle noise trying to sleep night after night. And I just thought that was the funniest story. Anyway, I really enjoyed his book, and I do recommend it. What book did you want to talk about today?
Well, first with your book, I kind of want to laugh because you said he was first a member of what? Foo Fighters?
Well, he was first Nirvana.
Okay, those are groups that I really truly do not know very much about, so that shows my age.
That's funny.
I'm going to talk about The Phone Booth at the Edge of the World by Laura Imai Messina. I absolutely love this book, and I recommended it to some of the people in my group, again, at the MustList. It was just beautifully written. It was like the author was just telling a story to me. It takes place in Japan. There's a young woman who loses her mother and her 3-year-old daughter to the tsunami. And it sounds really sad, but I didn't feel like it was a sad book, but some people will say, oh, it was sadly beautiful. I've heard that description of it before too. But anyway, she just goes on about in her life, living in some grief. And she hears about this telephone booth that this man has. And it's where people can go to talk to their lost loved ones.
Aww.
Very interesting concept. So it's a ways away. She gets in her car and drives her. It's like, I don't know if it's an all-day drive, but quite a ways. Anyway, she ends up meeting this man who also is there in grief because he's lost his wife to cancer, and he has a young daughter who's about the same age as her daughter. So they work through their grief together, and that's all I'm going to tell you about it, but it just was beautiful. That's how I felt.
Wow, that really does sound beautiful.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, when I first saw this book, I actually walked around the corner at the library, and I saw it on the bookshelf, and I'm like, oh, that cover's really pretty. And it had this long title, so I picked it up, and I'm like, The Phone Booth at the Edge of the World, what is this about? And I read the book flat, took it home and read it in a day and a half. I could not put it down. I loved it.
That is high praise coming from you. You're a picky reader. I know that.
I am. I really am.
I mean, I know people talk about the Four Winds by Kristen Hanna.
Yes.
Didn't you read that and
I
not
read that.
love it?
No, I did not love it. I did not.
Well, Kim, thank you so much for joining us today on the WPL Book Drop podcast. It's really been a pleasure.
You're welcome, Becky. Thank you. It's actually been pretty fun.
Good. If you liked today's episode, be sure to leave a rating and subscribe. Thank you.